So, it's the end of yet another week, and here on this channel, that means one thing and one thing only. Every weekend, I post an episode of this series we do called Your Take Not Mine, where I turn to you, the viewers, to give me your hottest NBA takes of the week based on what's going on at the time, and I then choose my favorite submissions and discuss them in a video. This week, the NBA's play-in games went down, determining the final two playoff teams for each conference, and those games were filled with excitement. Then, the playoffs officially got underway as well, with a few major performances happening there as well, so of course we have plenty to discuss. In order to submit your takes, I make a community post on either the day of or the day before the video, similar to the one that you see on your screen now, so if you want a chance to be featured in a future episode, be sure to stay on the lookout for that. Before we start though, I want to thank PrizePicks for sponsoring this video. PrizePicks is the perfect service for all of us basketball fans here because when you're involved, it makes watching games every night so much more fun and engaging. Basically, it's an application that provides you with lines on all kinds of individual player props, such as points, rebounds, assists, three-pointers made amongst others, and you simply have to choose whether you believe they will record over the set amount in the line or under the set amount in the line. Make your selections, wager however much you want to, and if your picks hit, you can win some big money. For some picks that I'm looking at making for today's slate of playoff games, I'm thinking of going with Zach LaVine to make over 2.5 threes, Tyler Hero to score over 20.5 points, and Nikola Vucevic to grab over 9.5 rebounds. If this sounds at all intriguing to you, then go use the link down in the description of the video to sign up today and use promo code REFERENCE to receive a 100% deposit match bonus up to $100. Once again, thank you to PrizePicks for sponsoring this video. Now let's get back to the topic at hand. The first take we'll be discussing today comes to us from Mikey, and he says that the Hawks have a real chance of beating the Miami Heat in the first round this year, and at the very least the series will be close. The 1 seed versus the 8 seed is supposed to be the biggest mismatch in the playoffs every year, but when discussing a matchup like this, you have to look past the number next to the team's name in the standings. Last year, we saw the Atlanta Hawks heat up close to the end of the season, and they upset both the Knicks and the 1-seeded 76ers on their way to the conference finals, so this core group of players have proven that they can elevate their games on the big stage. Admittedly though, this year's Hawks are not as good as they were a year ago, and they enter this series a bit banged up. Clint Capella is out for at least a week, which means he'll miss the first few games of the series, and while John Collins is looking to return for Game 1 of the series, he has missed the last month of play, so there will likely be some rust that he needs to shake off before he can be at his best, like he was in last year's postseason. Trae Young has shown that he rises to every occasion, and no moment is too big for him, and in this series against the Heat, I don't think it's a hot take at all to say that he's the best player, or at the very least, the best offensive player in the series amongst the two teams. Even with all of the inconsistencies throughout their season, the Hawks were the second best offensive team in the NBA this year, but the Heat were the 4th ranked defense, so that makes this matchup incredibly intriguing again. Honestly, this series could come down to which version of Jimmy Butler we get, because if he plays like he did in the bubble, then the Heat will easily win this series in about 5 games. But if he plays how he played against the Bucks in last year's playoffs, where he got outscored by Bryn Forbes, then the Heat will have some issues. The Heat are a better team with more experience, but the Hawks can light up the scoreboard, so even though I won't necessarily be picking Atlanta to win this series, I definitely can't rule them out either. The next take we'll be discussing today comes to us from Ender, and he says that the Timberwolves this year will be the team to make a run similar to last year's Hawks as a lower-seeded team, pulling off a few upsets in this year's playoffs. So yesterday, Game 1 of the series between the Grizzlies and the Timberwolves got underway, and reasonably most people have been picking the Grizzlies to win, because they have been consistently great on both ends of the floor all season long, and their young talent and deep roster can really cause a ton of problems for teams when they're clicking. But as I've said a few times now in prior videos, the Grizzlies do have a few things working against them that the Timberwolves can definitely exploit. For one, they were the team most reliant on fast break and transition offense in the league this season, and as we all know, the game tends to slow down come playoff time, so teams that excel in the half court are usually the ones that win out. Additionally, almost every key contributor for the Grizzlies is pretty young and inexperienced, which is another thing that doesn't usually spell immediate success for a playoff team. I have zero doubt that the Grizzlies are going to be a dangerous team in the playoffs for years to come, and even if they get upset this year, it will be a valuable learning experience for their future, but the Timberwolves definitely have a chance to win this series after they won Game 1. Whether you love him or hate him, Patrick Beverley is a competitor to the highest degree, and that mindset has rubbed off on everyone around him in Minnesota. A confident D'Angelo Russell can pose problems for anybody. Anthony Edwards is showing the world why he was the #1 pick in 2020 for a reason, with his unbelievable shot making after a 36-point Game 1. Karl Anthony Towns is the most offensively versatile big man in the league, and then their role players are all terrific defenders. And finally, the last take we'll be discussing today comes to us from JH, and he says that Tyrese Maxey is actually the real second best player on the 76ers right now. Whenever the national media discusses the 76ers, they obviously hone in on Joel Embiid and his MVP level play, and then James Harden is usually the clear #2, followed then by Tobias Harris because of his experience and the massive contract that he is being paid. But young Tyrese Maxey is the key to everything for them. Joel Embiid is going to face double and triple teams all postseason long because teams do not respect the supporting cast that they have around him, and they want to force that supporting cast to produce because they feel like that's the best way to win against Philadelphia. Well, in Game 1, we saw the Raptors execute that exact game plan, throwing several bodies at Joel every time he touched it, and while in the past Embiid has tried to get his still by forcing things through those double teams, he showed tremendous poise, finding the open man yesterday, and the team did well moving the ball, swinging it around until they got a good look, and Tyrese Maxey and his blazing speed made them pay by dropping 38 points in that victory. James Harden is notably someone who has lost a step as a scorer ever since that hamstring injury that he suffered, but his court vision and playmaking are still as elite as ever. So as long as Maxey stays aggressive, he should continue to feast with the amount of opportunities he'll have, playing off of Harden's passing and the attention that Joel Embiid will be getting. He was the third best three-point shooter in the NBA this season percentage-wise. He has an unbelievable floater that he utilizes regularly, and when he picks up speed, it becomes so difficult to stop him from getting to the rim, so even though he is young and inexperienced, which is something that I said earlier worries me, he's in the perfect situation to be able to hopefully overcome that. And with that being said, that's all I have for you today. Make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and comment down below what you think about the takes we discussed. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next time.